Hi everyone, Matthew Monas here. Today I'm reviewing the iPhone X. I've been using this for about 2 weeks now, and I'm ready to give you guys my review. I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. Some days I'm like, this is the best phone ever, and other days I'm like, how can I recommend this to somebody? So I'm not gonna go through every single spec because there's tons of great reviews that already do that, but I'm gonna talk about the things that I really love about this phone, what I don't like, and most importantly, whether or not you should actually buy it. So let's start off with the design. I really like the new look of the iPhone X. It brings it in line with 2017 standards. Is it the best looking phone on the market? That's obviously subjective. I think it's top 5, but I personally prefer the way the Galaxy Note 8 looks, even with its weird placement of the fingerprint scanner. From a practicality standpoint, it feels great in the hand. Even though it has a glass back and chrome edges, I don't feel like it's gonna slip out of it. The best way to compare it to is the Galaxy S8. It's pretty much the exact same size, but feels slightly better because it doesn't have those curved edges, so it's much easier to hold and more importantly, much easier to type on. But I also don't like the way the rear camera looks. It doesn't feel like it's part of the design. It feels like a prototype. It's just very jagged and it just sticks right out of the back with very sharp edges. I think they could have curved it or made it a lot more smoother to blend in with the design. The chrome accents, you either think they look great or they look cheap. I think they look fine on the space gray model, but a little cheaper on the silver one. The power button is bigger, so you can find it and click it much easier. Apple has also done a fantastic job with the dual speakers. There's one on the bottom, one on the earpiece, and I compared it to the iPhone 8 Plus. It gets just as loud, but sounds fuller overall, so better lows and better mids, whereas the iPhone 8 Plus had slightly better highs. If you want more of an Android comparison, it's pretty much on par with the Pixel 2. Now, just like the 8 and 8 Plus, you get a glass back, which means you also get wireless charging. In fact, I was just reading today, Apple is testing the next beta of iOS 11.2, and they are increasing the charging speed from 5 watts to 7.5, which means wireless charging is going to get a little bit faster on the iPhone. It's not going to be as fast as fast charging on the Note 8, but it's going to be faster than what it is right now. Now, if you're worried about fingerprints, if you're worried about your phone getting smudged up because of that glass back, you can either pop a case on it or do what I usually do is slap a dbrand skin on it. You'll get a little bit more grip and you won't have to worry about fingerprints. So let's talk about the notch for a second. This has been a big topic for a lot of people. Either you love it, you hate it, you despise it, or you fit somewhere in the middle. For me, I feel I'm in the middle. I first got the phone, I looked at it, I did not like the way it looked, but just like anything else in life, you do get used to it after a few days. Does it make it right? No. I think for a company like Apple who prides themselves on having the best design, this doesn't speak for them. And you can say the same thing for Samsung with their fingerprint scanner placement on the Galaxy Note 8 and the Galaxy S8. Now, I do get why it's there. They wanted to incorporate 3D sensors in order to perform Face ID, which is their face technology in order to log into your smartphone. They did this so they can get rid of the fingerprint scanner on the front of the phone. Do I think this was the best move? No, I think having a fingerprint scanner on the back makes a lot more sense. And on top of that, I still find a fingerprint scanner a lot more valuable. Now, Face ID on the iPhone X has been great. For the most part, it is accurate. It works 98% of the time, regardless of the lighting conditions. There are a couple of instances where I did find it valuable, and one of them was for me, who lives in a cold country like here in Canada. I was out, I had my gloves on, which I can still use with my phone. I wanted to get into my phone quickly, and usually if you have a fingerprint scanner, you have to take off your glove, press it with your finger, then log in or type in a password. With Face ID, I didn't have to do that. I could just point it at my face and log in right away. Which brings me to the display itself, and the display is absolutely awesome. I know Samsung is creating the OLED panels for it, but Apple is doing their own color profiling, which I personally feel offers a better experience than other Android phones. For one, it's not super saturated, but saturated enough that everything looks very pleasing. And the brightness is brighter than any other smartphone on the market. Now, the Galaxy Note 8 can get up to 1200 nits of brightness, but it can only do that with 1% of the pixels powered on. On average, the display brightness on the iPhone and even the Pixel 2 XL is brighter than any other smartphone on the market. Because of the new aspect ratio though, there are some concerns. And that's when you're watching a movie. You either have to crop in and look at the notch when you're watching a movie, or you have to crop out and leave it at the standard view and have those black bars on the sides. That essentially makes the display size as big as the iPhone 8. Also, a lot of apps are not updated for this screen, so you get a lot of black bars on some of the major apps that you use on a daily basis. So the experience is very inconsistent. Next up is the performance, and there's not much to report here. It's the exact same experience you'd get with the iPhone 8 or the 8 Plus. Very fast, very smooth, using the A11 Bionic chip for a great experience. Now there are a couple of bugs, and this is mostly to do with iOS 11. It hasn't been the best software release for Apple. I get a lot of glitched notifications coming in on the lock screen, so things look blurred out. I've had the touch delay when in cold weather. I could be walking down the street, all of a sudden the phone gets a little bit too cold and I can't respond to people because the letters are not being activated. I have to go back in the house, let the phone warm up, and things will start working again. Now granted, this has only happened once and I'm hoping it doesn't happen again. But because there is no Touch ID, there are a bunch of new gestures that you have to use in order to get around your smartphone. Now, since there's no home button, you gotta swipe up to go home. If you wanna get to the control center, you gotta swipe up from the top. Now, overall, these gestures actually kind of feel great, and it makes using the phone a little bit more enjoyable. I honestly thought this would be a bad experience for me, but it's been a good one. The only gestures I don't like is getting to the recent apps menu. You have to swipe up and then swipe to the right. It just feels counterintuitive. And if you want to remove an app from the background, you have to long press on it, then hit the little circle icon to get rid of it. It just takes a lot of time, and it's a lot less intuitive than simply swiping a card away like you could on previous iPhones. The camera on the iPhone X is fantastic. It's definitely top 5. I feel you get a very good, consistent experience with it. Now, you know, just like the 8 and 8 Plus, they're pretty much the exact same sensors. The only difference is the second lens now has optical image stabilization, so the footage is a lot more stabilized, and it has a lower aperture, so you get a little bit better results in low light. So here's the thing about the iPhone. It has a lot of little gimmicks like portrait mode and studio lighting and all that stuff. It's fun to play with, but most likely you're not going to use it that often. I think if you want great video production on a smartphone, the iPhone does the best job, at least from the phones that I've reviewed recently. You get a cleaner image, not the best optical image stabilization compared to the Pixel, but you also get cool features like 240 frames per second at 1080p or 60 frames per second at 4K, which is insane for a smartphone. But if you want the best photography smartphone, I still think you're better off going with a Pixel. The colors just look better, their processing is better, their portrait mode is better, and it just looks a lot more pleasing. So for video, go with the iPhone X. For portrait photography, you're better off with the Pixel. And finally, let's talk about battery life. My experience has been somewhat positive with the iPhone X. The battery life is better than the iPhone 8, but it's not nearly as good as the iPhone 8 Plus. So for me, I'd start the day at 6 a.m., I'd go to the gym, I'd do my thing, use it pretty heavily throughout the day, and have about 10 to 15% battery life left at around 11 o'clock at night. Whereas on my iPhone 8 Plus, I might have 40% left. So pretty much on par with the Pixel 2, better than the iPhone 8, but not as good as the iPhone 8 Plus. So here are my closing thoughts. I think the iPhone X is a fantastic phone. It has a great display, good design, the cameras are fantastic, and it continues to provide a very consistent experience. But do I think it's worth $1,000? That's a question I've been asking myself ever since I bought this phone. And there's days I feel like, you know what? I think I'm gonna return it. I just can't justify spending that much money on a phone that doesn't provide a unique experience. I know Samsung started this trend with the Galaxy Note 8, but at least I can say with the Note 8, it provides something truly unique that no other smartphone does, and that's the S Pen experience. There are a lot of people out there, or a niche group of people, that swear by it and use it on a daily basis. The only thing you're getting from this phone compared to the iPhone 8 Plus is a better design, a slightly better display, and emojis. Is that enough for you to buy the latest iPhone for $1,000? That depends on your needs. If you're an Apple enthusiast, if you buy an Apple product every single year, you're gonna buy this no matter what. But if you're the average consumer, I think you're gonna get a lot more value from the iPhone 8 Plus. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. And as always, I will see you in the next video.